Yes. Okay. Amazing. I'm so excited to be back here talking and
No,
being
literally.
together, even though we talk every single day, 24,000 times a day. But it feels good to be back on the podcasty. Um, I wanted to continue our conversation we started earlier, where we were talking about like a lot of the issues that parents have when they're kind of seeing their kiddos struggle. I think like
Mm.
that's so huge, and that's a big reason I think that I ended up doing this. You know what I do, what we do, is because my mom literally had that with my brother, right? Where
Yeah.
she was like, I don't understand your mom too. I think that's something that's so funny that we have in parallel where she would just think, I don't get it. What's going on in his brain? And I remember she always says this, and I'm sure I've shared this before, but she always says now, she's like, I feel so bad and so guilty that I used to tell him, all you have to do is try. TRY, TRY. And he laughs about it now. He's like, he'll make a joke like I have nightmares of her telling me to TRY, because because it was so weird. And this is something that's so common with kids with a
Oh
disorganized
my
brain
gosh.
where they'll be really good at something one time and then they'll try to do it again. And it's not even
Um,
night, like half, it's night and day, right? And so that's where the parents are like, oh, he's just not trying this time. He's
mm,
just not putting that much effort into it because we value effort so much in our society. And it's like, if
yes.
you knew the amount of effort he's putting on into just listening to the directions, just sitting in
Yes.
this chair.
100%. I think that's what this podcast season needs to really capture is we can help parents understand, like we can be the voice of their child and help them make sense of what their child is not able to articulate to them. Because at the end of the day, they only know themselves and they don't know that every other kid has something else that they're struggling with. And now that I'm running this little micro school, I get to see so many different profiles in person again. And there's a few little ones that I just keep thinking about and having conversations with the adults about. And they're like, he just doesn't get it. He's just, oh my gosh, he's so behind. Oh my gosh, are they doing anything at home? And I'm like, oh my gosh, but this kid is literally the most liked kid out of every single like age group. And he's also so funny and so witty, but yet he can't tie his shoes and he's almost 8 years old and he can't sit still. And like, I remember yesterday, I was even like, okay, guys, we're going to journal. I'm just trying to get them to like get in the habit of like getting out a piece of paper and just putting any thought, drawing, writing any thought on paper. And a lot of them are just like, and they can't do it. And even watching how they hold their pencils gives so much information of what's going on with the brain that I want to be able to tell the parent, like, they can't even hold a pencil comfortably. How do you expect them to get their thoughts onto the paper? And I remember I gave the prompt and I have this book and I just pulled up the first prompt that was left. And it was, what's something you can do to help yourself calm down when you feel upset? All the other kids got started and the group of kids are from 4 years old to 9 years old. Even the 4-year-old was getting started on his
Yeah.
prompt and he was just drawing pictures. And after 10 minutes, this one little boy looked at me. He's like, wait, what are we doing? And I was like, wait, are you actually kidding though? Like, I don't know if you're joking or if you're serious right now. Cause he's funny. He's really
Yeah.
funny and he's really good at being able to, you know, put a spin on something to make it look like he knows what's happening. But I also am like, but do you? And you're able to use your wit and sense of humor to like compensate for what you're not able to do. And he's like, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He's like, but like, honestly, like, are we writing that? I was like, yeah. And he's like,
Yeah.
just like that, like what it says like that on the board. And I was like, you're so smart and you're working so hard. And everyone just is like, why can't you do this? And I'm like, what if we could be the voice that helps the disorganized brain make sense to their parents and to teachers and
Yes.
to anyone working with kids? And to be honest,
1,000%.
this translates to adults too. So when you're listening to it and you're thinking about kids, I was the kid with a disorganized brain that was trying so dang hard, white knuckling life until I realized,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not dumb. I just can't do what you're asking me to do yet.
And that's also what's so funny about the way that you and I grew up, where you and I had less noticeable, I think, disorganization in our brains, but we dealt with it very differently. And I was actually just thinking this right now as we were talking that I definitely had a disorganized brain, but I think there was a lot of expectation put on me. I was the first grandchild, I was the only girl. I was
Mm,
bilingual from the time I was really little. Like there was a lot of like, oh, she's so smart and so capable. She could do everything. And I'm just an independent person, I think, since birth. And
Yeah.
so there was even more expectation put on me, right? And so that happens sometimes with these kids that you kind of forget that they're a kid, right? And I was thinking that the first time, like when I was always really good in school. I always got A's and all the things that you had to
Mm-hmm.
do just because I just did it. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't actually remember what it felt like to do to effort the way that I was efforting. Um, but I know I was definitely compensating because I had a Moro that was strong. I definitely had STNR, like still to this day, I don't think I fully integrated that yet, right? Like a lot of reflexes that were getting in the way, a lot of reactivity, and of course, a lot of emotional stuff. And when I went to France, I did speak French. And
Mm.
so I was at this boarding school where everybody spoke French and you had no choice but to literally just speak French. And so for the first like 3 months, I didn't speak a word. I was just listening, and I wouldn't say anything.
Mm.
And the teachers, they knew that I was coming in without speaking. So they wouldn't put that many demands on me. They'd be like, okay,
Mm.
well, you just can sit there and you can like read a book in French and you can.
I see where you're
And
going with
so
it.
that's
Mm-hmm.
when I started to realize, wait, you can be in school and not do things? Like,
Mm.
this is a game changer. I was like, okay, I'm going to hide the fact that I can actually speak French from the teachers. And I was able to hide it from them for most of them for like almost the whole year that I was there. I was only
Mm-hmm.
there for a whole school year. And I remember one teacher, he was the coolest guy ever. He was a history teacher. He came up to me one day because by month 3, I was like fluent, talking in French, making jokes. Like when my friends knew, but I was like always like, don't tell any like of the teachers that I can speak French because like they're gonna ask me to actually do work. So he
Okay,
came up to me.
son
He's like,
from Lost. No, just kidding.
exactly. I'm literally okay. Literally, I was Son from Lost. Exactly, that was me. Exactly, 1,000%.
I am
I was like,
rewatching
don't.
Lost.
Yes,
Paloma was
and my
recommendation.
friends
Sorry.
were my friends were Michael, knowing that I totally Facebook it, right? And oh, just kidding. Spoiler alert, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so I remember he came up to me. He's like,
I
"What's
know.
up?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? What are you talking about? What? Quoi? Like, je ne comprends pas. And he's like, I fully heard you speaking better French than me right now outside with your
Yeah.
friends. And then you just came up and you were like, hi, bonjour. And then he's like, you can't fake it with me anymore. I'm not going to. And
Oof.
he was the coolest guy. He's like, I'm not going to tell any other teachers because that's
Mm.
on them. The fact that they haven't noticed, that's on them. But
Yeah.
with me, you're working,
No
you're
more.
reading, you're
Mm.
learning this, you're going to catch up on all your work. And I was like, okay, I swear. But that was the first time I ever had that excuse to be like, oh, yeah, baby, I'm just going
The
to
weight.
lean back and
Yes.
relax and enjoy the show. And I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of my compensations were forgotten. My brain was like,
Right.
I don't have to do that anymore. And so then
Right.
after that,
Yeah.
I had a lot of challenges in school after that because I came back and I went to the
Mm.
French school in Mexico City, which is really, really academically rigorous. I got kicked out of there. Then I went to the US. I did 11th grade in the US, and that was fine because the US public system, as we know, is not necessarily very, there. I was actually in honors classes, but I
Yeah.
didn't do anything. I literally
Right,
didn't. I
that's for
didn't go to
that.
school when I was
Mhm,
in honors.
mhm,
IP
mhm.
everything,
Yeah.
and then I came back to Mexico, and I had to do this like school system that was like alternative, where you just basically just read a book and you take a test and you pass the things. And I was like, this is great. And I
Mm.
noticed, oh, maybe I'm actually better at being self-taught, like learning things on my own. And I was like, that I finished it super fast. And then I
Yes.
went to college, and I also got kicked out of college because I wasn't going to school. And I just
Right.
was like, I'm so not interested in this, right? But I think that's the first time I ever learned, like, oh wow, I'm not actually that academically oriented as I thought I had been, because also all the adults in my world were like, you are so good at school. You should keep
Yes.
going to school and doing all the schooling things, school, right? And I think that's what something was very confusing for my parents when I came back from France. And suddenly I was like, yeah, I don't know what an A means anymore. I'm so sorry. Like genuinely bad grades, babe. And I think my mom was like, what is going on? My dad was like, what, how, why? And I just
Yeah.
remember being like, I genuinely don't really care anymore. But I was a teenager, so it was different. And so it was like seen as like me being a rebel. But I think it was genuinely just my brain being able to take a breath for the first time and being like, I'm not building up those compensations ever again. Like it's just not going to happen. Right.
Yeah, and
And
it wasn't like it was completely like, effortless for you to make that articulated thought happen, right? It just was this
of course
very
not.
subconscious thing that started to sneak into your life, and you created a story of like who you were and who you became without
Exactly.
understanding the understanding of your brain and
Oh,
like
100%. I
how
was
and
just
why
like,
it was working. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm just lazy now. And so I was just like a lazy
Yes,
girl. And I was like, hi,
that's
I'm just a
it.
lazy girl. And that
Yeah.
became my identity, right? And honestly, it kind of still slips into me. I identify a lot with like, oh, I'm so lazy. Like, I don't want to do that. And maybe I'm
Right.
not, but I just think
No.
that that was a part of the compensation too of being like, oh, I'm just lazy. That's why I don't want to go to class. I'm just lazy. I don't want to do this. I don't
Yes.
want to do that. And we see kids do this all the time. Like I have so many kiddos with the brain work and stuff where they're like, oh, or they'll talk about like school. Well, math, it's just boring and I'm too lazy to do it. So I don't want to do it, you know? And so that's where like those cues, and I know that was a very long story, but it's one of those things where I wish that a lot of more parents were able to see through, see past the surface of the behavior, of the lack of, you know, whatever academic success or the lack of motor success, because I'm also very just you know, just uncoordinated person in general. So like that kind of stuff, I think that we forget that there's so many more layers to this stuff as a society. And you and I were just saying this earlier, we do it to ourselves. Like so many times I do this to myself where I'm like, why can't I just do this thing? And it's like, that's your brain telling you you need a little more brain work. Like go do your exercises and then this will be easier in a few days. You know what I mean?
100%. Well, okay. I just want to unpack some of the things you said because I think
Yeah.
number one, it actually, and one of my favorite things about what we do here at In the Cortex is we get to highlight our stuff. Like you even just mentioned a couple of things and I'm like, wait, I actually need to highlight for you how I don't even see you the same way. But then the first part is when you went to the French school, you need to have an adult that didn't have any emotional connection to you really, but then
Yes.
also had the confidence in himself to call you out and be like, girl, I can guide you and I'm going to guide you. And for you to feel that relief from an adult is huge. When you are with
Yes.
a child and if you are equally scared and nervous, they will sniff it out and they will literally shut you down. If you
Yes.
do not walk into a room with kids with confidence, they will not honor and respect you, period. So he was that for you and he kind of got you to like wake up and see it, right? But then
1000%.
also when you were talking about being a teenager and then all of a sudden like because when you go to France and you move out of your home country and you move out of your language and you move out of like having your parents enable you, it does strip you. It's that moment where you're stripped of all your compensations. And
Exactly.
your mom was very much like my mom, like wanting to do whatever it took to make you and help you become successful, but at the expense sometimes of becoming enabling and obviously helping you do things that you should not have been able to have done yet. And you should have sat in that failure longer. So we could have seen
1000%.
that
Yeah.
you had a lot of challenges in certain things, right? But you were also told, and this is like a whole nother thing, there's like so many things happening in your
So many
story,
layers. Yeah.
but like you were also told all the time that you're so smart. And we now know with like the science behind it, if you tell a kid constantly that they're smart and then they come to something that's challenging, they just give up and they're like, well, I'm
Oh,
smart, so why is this hard for me?
yeah.
I'm
So
not going to
that's
do
why
it.
my competition was just to be like, I'm just lazy because I don't want
Exactly.
to think that I'm dumb or that I could fail at something. Like that doesn't make any sense because I've always been told that I was the smartest person ever, right?
Right.
And that's the whole thing where it's like if parents were able to, and I know this sounds counterproductive or I should say counterintuitive,
Yeah.
if you're able to just step back that emotional piece a little tiny bit and see that yes, your kids are part of you. They lived inside of your body if you're the mother, right? Like this is your family, your baby, your everything, right? Your world for a lot of parents. And yet they are not a direct reflection of you. They're not
Mm-mm.
you. Like they're their own person. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces. And that's why you and I decided so many years ago we have to start working with the parents because
Yes.
if the parents are still having these projections and they're dysregulated, they don't know how much stuff they're projecting onto their kiddos, right? And like we project things onto strangers on the street. Do
Yeah.
you think you're not going to project way more onto your kids, right? And it's
100%.
just about like taking a breath and being like, I don't have to be perfect, and I'm not. But I'm going to look at what I'm putting onto my kids subconsciously
Oh,
because
yes.
truly that's just going to be able to make them be themselves. That's the biggest thing is like
That's it.
being able to be yourself is such a huge deal.
Oh,
And we think we all are, and a lot of us are not.
No. Well, we're constantly being programmed for the first 7, 8 years of life of how to think, how to act, how to be in this world and how to fit into society. And then we just really lose sight of who we actually are. And I know this totally happened to both of us. And we've spent now me 40, I'm 40 and spent so many years just like getting rid of the programs that aren't me. But what's really interesting is like something that happened to Paloma when she was a teenager and realizing that where she actually was academically was just her trying to splinter skill is what we call it. Like you learn one thing, but it doesn't have the foundation to support the actual task. And we see this so many times as kids jump grades. We're always going up another grade level with the assumption we've understood everything with that foundation below it.
Yes.
And so we see kids, I see this all the time. They can read beautifully, but they cannot actually write. Or they can add, but then they can't subtract because they don't have a sense of numbers, right?
Yep.
And so what you were able to realize that a teenager was like, oh my gosh, I am smart. I'm just going to now choose to be lazy because laziness can be a choice, right? By a lot of people. And you were able to get away with it for so long.
Yeah.
And you still think you're lazy. And actually, I just had this thought. I've never told you this before, but I'm like, you're not lazy at all. Like a lazy, you just know how to prioritize rest, which is something I'm learning to do because I grew up with opposite beliefs always. Like we always have these like contrasting beliefs of how we grew up and whatever. But you actually get so much done. And if you actually look at your life, you're like, wait, I actually need to ditch this whole thought of me being lazy at all.
Oh, 1,000%. I have to do a reconnect about that. Yeah.
Yes. And uncoordinated. I'm like, do you not remember me posting videos of you dancing? Like you've got really good dance moves and you can follow every TikTok dance and do it. Like I actually think of myself as being super coordinated and I cannot follow a sequential dance. It takes me so long to learn choreographed dances. So anyways, it's fun to learn this stuff about ourselves. And this is what we really want to capture in this season is really helping to see kids for who they are, where they are, and just release the idea of you should be here by 8, you should be here by 10, you should be here by 15. Get rid of that, right? Because adults, if you can check everything off the list, then go ahead. Let's hear you pop off. But I can guarantee you, you cannot stay totally chill and calm for an entire 48 hours. No. Like most of them. I'm going to say, get in the car and drive from San Diego to LA and tell me you can stay calm during rush hour traffic.
100% of the time.
You know? And so that's a big...
Yes. And that's where we always say we have so much higher expectations for kids than we do for adults so many times, right? Because I feel like once you're an adult and you're not constantly being graded and measured and compared, you're like, whew, okay, got it. I can let go, kind of like, like this thing I was saying earlier, like, okay, I can let go of my compensations and just figure out whatever I need to do now for my job, for my family, for whatever. And I'm not saying that life doesn't still get harder, but you're not constantly being graded every semester or every year. I'm like, okay, you got an A on this, you got a B on that, you got a C on that, got to work on this, does not play well with others, So it's like, but if we were, we'd all have like at least one grade where we're like, I got to work on that. You know what I mean? Like 100%. What area of my life. And so
and I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just going to do have expectations for kids, because we're constantly measuring them. We're constantly grading them on things. And that's interesting.
Whoa, that's actually a moment we just had where we're like, wait, of course we feel this way. And of course we were just doing a reconnect before we got on about releasing the need to attack ourselves because we've grown up in a culture where we're being measured every step of our lives. Oh my gosh, I'm having such an aha, like crazy moment. Because honestly, this is what it's about is like live in a world where we can literally just allow people to be with still challenge them, still give them tasks that are hard, still get them to think and be critical and do all the things, but then allow it to be hard and not then categorize them as a specific kind of learner or person. And we've gotten out of hand with my ADHD, my autism, my this, and I'm not saying that those diagnoses aren't real, but then they become exactly what Paloma did. Your excuse for why you're not able to do what's being asked of you. And we're just asked to flip the script and be like, but why? Why are you not able to hold a pencil comfortably? Why are you not able to like process what I'm asking you to do? We look at it as like it's a disorganized brain, and the best thing is you can do something about it. And our
Yeah,
top, like most driven person who finds us is the mom usually who's already
usually.
done a lot of different things modality wise. And we're not saying that they're not great, but we're just saying it's like the splinter skill. It's putting something before all the other things have the strong foundation. And so
Yep.
this is why I love, because whenever I hear parents talking and I'm working with a lot of parents, I'm always like, gosh, I really wish they would go look in the mirror right now and go look at that thing that they're doing that's contributing to that behavior.
Oh,
And a lot of
totally.
parents are like, oh, I know I'm aware of it. Like I know I'm fueling my child's, separation anxiety, or I'm fueling my kid's desire to want to fight me when it comes time to doing schoolwork if you're a homeschooling family or you're doing homework after school. But then they're like, but I don't know what to do. Because it's like, unpack your childhood. Whew,
That's a little bit of a heavy one.
where do I
Yeah.
start?
Well, but also I think again, going back to being measured all the time, right? We say, okay, I identified this thing, now I have to work on it immediately and get it done in 2 days. And it's like, no, because also once you unpack that one thing, it's the never ending onion, right? There going to be a lot of layers, mama. There's going to be so many
Yes.
layers, I promise you. And like that's also something that I think we in the Cortex community have really, for the members that have been there for a really long time, they know this, right? There are times when you're working on everything, and sometimes you're just like lying low and you're just like waiting for whatever to happen, and like something will come up and you're like, okay, I think it's time to work on that thing, right? And I think that's also something that you and I do all the time, where we're like, I'm really feeling this thing come up, so I'm gonna work on
Mm,
it now, right? And it can't always be the same thing, and it can't always be on like the timeline that we expect, right?
mhm,
But I
mhm.
do know that this is the reason that we have the brains that we have. That's why it works this way. It's because, and our brains are always trying to protect us. We have to always go back to that. It's remember that we are animals. We are animals. We forget, but we are literally
Mhm.
nothing but mammals. Am I right? I'm not going to
Oh.
say the rest of the song, but literally, like, I think we forget that, like, this is why we operate the way we do, and that why we're living in societies, why we have kids and families and relationships and all this stuff, is we're animals, and we forget that so much of the stuff that we are encountering is being processed the way that an animal would, right? So
Yes.
we think of ourselves as these higher beings, and we have logic, and we have thoughts, we have philosophy, and all these things. And excuse me, I love that. Everybody knows I love to nerd out on everything, right? But
Mhm.
have to remember, and this is a message I'm honestly giving to myself. Like, I'm gonna look at myself in
Yeah.
the camera. Like,
Yeah.
you're an animal. Like, you're
Yeah.
still a person. You have a body. You have a nervous system that has to learn how to interact with things and process things through there instead of through our minds all the time. Because the mind is so good at going in circles around everything and creating so many different stories and so many judgments, so many things about everything. And like, once we let it sink into our body, oh my gosh, it's such a different experience.
Oh, I literally, we say this all the time. It's like we're living this human experience and we forget because we like literally get so tunnel visioned in these little things and we're like, oh my gosh, it's such a big deal. And then and this is why I love brainwork, because it gives us that zoom out, get a new perspective. And then you're like, wait, at the end of the day, we're all just animals trying to get to the watering hole and get ourselves
Yes.
some water, And I'm like, and I was actually just had this thought, and I love that you just brought it up because I think about the kiddos all the time, like maybe too much, because I'm always just like, how can we help support them more? Maybe I feel like you're a French teacher from high school, boarding school, where I'm just like, I really want them to just like get it and go, right? And I'm like, it's so fascinating because I always start with the emotional piece too. Because if we don't have the emotional regulation under our belt, it doesn't matter what happens, you can't get a child to sit down at a desk and learn. It's just not going to
Yep.
happen. They're constantly in that state of like, is this safe? Can I do this? But and they're never going to
Yep.
be able to focus. But then I was thinking the other day and I was like, gosh, free play is such an interesting time. Like I love watching
Yes.
the break off of like where kids go and how things happen because it's unstructured and it's really where we get to see the animalistic properties come out
Totally.
and the
Yeah. Yeah.
characteristics, I should say. And I was like, because it's really interesting. I'm like, everyone's vying for like, where do I stand in that social sense? And like, that's where I think it's such a beautiful time but it's also such a really enlightening moment where you get to see where people are at. And it's a great time to know, where do I support that child? Because
Oh, I
there's,
love
and
that.
I'm like, okay, so I know this kiddo has a really challenging time just interacting and connecting with other kids. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard for them. Or this kiddo feels like they always want to be the ringleader and they're going to tell other kids how to act. And I'm like, okay, that to me, that's a moro. So I'm like, okay, when I'm watching it, I'm putting together the pieces of what part of their brain is disorganized. And that's what I want this podcast to help, is to help parents understand that they're
Yes.
not being a mean kid to be a mean kid. There's a root.
Of course not.
There's
Yeah.
a possibly a retained moral reflex. And that is the strongest, most intense primitive reflex we all have. And
Yeah.
it should be fully integrated, not popping up and doing, very primal actions past 4 months of life.
Yeah.
But we see it in adults. We see adults
Yeah.
getting cut off on the freeway and wanting to yell explicits and give the, finger and
Yeah.
then go get vengeance
Chase each
over.
other down on the freeway.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw a TikTok like that the other day. I was like, can you not do that? You're gonna create a problem. Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah,
what if we
100%.
looked at it from that perspective? And that's what I really want to help parents tune into, is like, number one, we have to stop comparing our kids. If your child's not reading by 8 years old, it's not the end of the world. Instead of trying to catch back up and get them where they need to be, quote unquote, why don't we look at why they're not there? And like, let's
Exactly.
do some movements to help support them. And then another part is like, which is something I was really humbled with my kids, was having to check my ego, was having to be like, oh, just because I was a really good athlete, like my kids are just going to be natural athletes. And then wait a
Right.
minute, they're not. Like, or,
Yeah.
that was really easy for me. Of course, it's going to be easy for them. And then it's not. Or I'm super dysregulated. My kids are now dysregulated. And I want someone to save me, and no one's going to save me. And I have to go do the work myself. And so these are the things we go through when we become parents. Is you can't go take a 30-minute lunch break and say, see you later, kids. I got to go fix some stuff. You're in it. You're in it, and you're in it all the time. Sometimes it is healthy to be able to take a break. But your child, when they're having an epic meltdown, they're not going to give you that break. So what do you do in that moment? And I think we should just answer the question really quick of so many people saying, just put the oxygen mask on yourself. But when you're in that moment, you can't put that oxygen mask on. When your child is pulling on you and demanding from you, and you're literally feeling the dysregulation creep through your body, and you start to feel it's palpable. It's a physiological reaction, and you just want to stop them. You're like, just stop it. And we see it so many times at Target, at restaurants, at all these places where kids are supposed to just follow along and do what they're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden they hear the word no, and it triggers their moral reflex, and they have a meltdown. So what do you do when you're in it?
As a parent, like, there's not a lot that you can do, right? It kind of depends on what you're on what kind of parenting style you have, on what relationship you have with your kid, on where your boundaries are. Because a parent that has zero boundaries established right now, and they like just started to try to put them down, the moment that happens, they're like, whatever, just have the cookie, it's fine, let's just go, right? You either give in, or you feel so much judgment. And this is we've talked about this for sure before on the podcast, but it's kind of like just so difficult to be that person who's like, oh, what do I do? I don't know what to do with my child. They're losing it. They're creating a situation for everybody. Everybody's staring at me. So now my primitive brain is like, do, fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight. So most parents are just going to react. They're not going to take the time to respond. Really, in that moment, you're not going to put on your oxygen mask. You're not going to take 10 deep breaths, bro. And you're not going to go creep in the middle of the supermarket, right? You're not going to crawl on the floor. Let me just regulate for a second, Timmy. I'll be right back.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm going to go creep a lap down the grocery store aisle. No, but I can tell you, I mean, we've all been there. If you have children, you've been there. You've been in the moment. And I do believe, I do know for a fact that when I started really focusing on me and regulating me, those moments just didn't matter as much, like in the sense of what people thought of me. But obviously not everyone's there yet. And when you're in that moment, it's important, and this is why we talk about in our program so much, is like giving the cortex a heads up before you go do something is so vital, and it helps
Yes.
to prepare your child and you for what's to come. And then there's moments where you completely forget. And then you know what you just have to do is you just have to, if you're not with any tools in that moment and your child's having a meltdown because they just heard they can't have what they want, you just grab them and you try your hardest to stay calm and you walk out and you
Yeah.
leave and you go sit in the car, you put them in their car seat and you wait until everyone is calm before you even try to tackle what just happened. Because so
Yes.
many times I see this all the time is we start to engage with the child that's on the floor having a complete
No.
meltdown. There's no rational thought happening. So that just enrages it more. We say this all the time. The more you engage, the more you
The more
enrage.
you
That's actually
enrage.
Dr. Dan Siegel's line.
Yeah.
And it's true because that primitive brain is looking for more ways to get this adrenaline and this cortisol through their system. So like, oh, find someone to fight with. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that was 100% me. I used to love it when I got people to engage with me. Like this was later
Yeah.
in life too. And I was like, oh yeah, you want to fight? Let's go. Let's throw down. I can be right there with you. But when people don't engage with you, you're like, oh God,
Okay.
what do I do?
Yeah.
And then you just naturally become bored. And then when you're bored, you can't be bored in survival mode. You go into your cortex and you start to have that moment of like, what did I just do? And that remorse kicks in. You're like, I really did destroy that whole aisle in Target, didn't I? Like that was bad.
And that's
And
really sad when the kiddos come up and they're like, Mom, I'm really sorry. Like, I mean, I don't have my own kids, but I've lived it with your kids, with so many
yes,
different kids that I've worked with. And there's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. They'll draw you a little picture. And it's just like, oh,
yes,
I don't want you to feel that way, right? And it's okay to
right.
have emotions and reactions and like, but you know, as we do the program and we regulate more, we see that those moments start to decrease and decrease and decrease. And again, we say this literally every single time we do a podcast. Are they going
Mm-hmm.
to go away 100%? No, because
No.
you are not creating a robot. You're just helping a kid regulate, right? And yourself regulate. That's truly what we're
Yes.
doing.
Yes.
But the way that we come back from that is so, so, so important. And so that's where it's so cool when you have those moments when you just talk to them about what happened, connect with them again, help them understand. Like, I understand why that was frustrating. Like, I
Yeah.
get it. Like, that must have felt really, really, really bad. But here's what we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do, right? And how are we going to handle it next time? And that's where the repair is so important. And we just did a post on social media, right?
Yeah.
About that on social media, where it's, the repair truly is what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember the tantrum, but they are going to remember when they're older. Like my mom always used to tell me ABC, right? And this will come down to
Mm.
each parent's philosophy on how to deal with things and conflict, and every parenting style is completely different. I think that's also something that's really cool, where parents will come up with these really cool strategies of like
Well,
how to repair with their kiddos and how to talk about it next time and whatever.
well, I just thought of your
But
mom, and I was
that's
like, always be closing. For
yes, always
ABC.
be.
That's not your mom's. That wasn't the context when you were a kid. That's very Carol coded.
Well, I mean, and I mean, we all know
Yeah.
how, like, we know like adults, sorry, that we know how they grew up. Like, we're like,
Yeah.
okay, you never heard the word no when you were little, right? You were the queen of the castle, the king of the castle, or the opposite, where I could tell that you must have had, a hard time getting stuff when you wanted
Mhm.
them when you were little. Maybe you
Mhm.
had a lot of siblings. Maybe your parents were really busy. Maybe whatever, right? And so
Mhm.
we've seen it in people that we know nowadays, and that's nowadays meaning adults that we know.
Yeah.
But I think that that's also where a lot of this stuff comes back of like empathy for everybody, empathy for our own parents, empathy
Mm.
for our own selves as little kiddos and currently, empathy for that person trying to do their best now and their parents and everybody. Because that's the truth, is that we're all operating from wherever we can, right? Wherever our
Yes.
brain is allowing us to in that moment. And so sometimes taking things personally, or like, I remember when I was working, I've said this before on the podcast too, but I remember when I was working in schools, sometimes the teachers will get so angry at the kids, but I'm like, we're in an
Mm.
ABA school for kids that have special needs, like literally autism and related disorders. We know they have a hard time. Like, why are you
Yeah.
getting mad at this kid and saying that he's a, you know what? He's 7. Like, you're the person that's here to hold that space for that kiddo and guide them and help them understand their feelings and all this stuff. But even the most trained teachers that have been doing it for so many years will have that moment of like, like it's
Yeah.
totally, totally, totally natural and normal. And I think
Yeah.
that's the ultimate piece, is having empathy for yourself when you have those
Ugh,
reactions and when you have that judgment of somebody, and then you're like,
it's me.
oh, that's literally coming from me. Like that's
It's me. Yeah.
they're reflecting something back to me. And also, like, they're just a kid, or they're just a person who's on their way to work, who's running really late, who something must have happened.
Mhm.
It's that meme that we said, well, not a meme, but a post that we saw the other day, where it's like an aerial view of people walking in a city, and
Yes.
they kind of have like these little text bubbles over each person's head. And so this person just broke up with their fiance. This person just lost somebody really important in their family. This person just lost a bunch of money. This person just had a great day yesterday. Like, you don't know what people are going through. And I truly believe that that's one of the hardest things to do. And this is hard for me every single day, where I'm like, what? Why did that person do that? And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, take a step back. You don't know what's happening in their lives. And does it truly matter? No, you're going to move
No.
on with your day. So it's fine, right? We don't have to give so much weight to every single thing that happens in our day. And I know that we've gone in 1,000 different directions today, but I do think
Well,
it's
I
all
want to
coming back.
say, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I just wanted to say like exactly what you just said. That last piece of being able to empathize, it is a brain function. If you literally
Yes.
can't put yourself in someone else's shoes to see their perspective on anything, it's because you're in survival mode. And that means you're only focused on yourself and how you're going to get through your day to keep yourself alive. It's truly a very primitive thing. And so when we're
Exactly.
dealing with parents that are coming to me right now, they're like, do you think he's going to make it? Like, do you think he can do this? What is he like? What's my child doing? And I'm like, your kid's great. And I share all the positives, and they're like, and I was like, yeah, and he's funny. Like the funny things he comes up with is amazing. And they're like, oh, but is it disrespectful? And I was like, no, but if you were a dysregulated person, you could potentially take offense to anything someone says, right? And I think that is where, and this is, I want to share this last piece because I really want to put this all together, is that our whole goal of this podcast is to help you parents become more confident, and caregivers and teachers, anyone who's working with kids. And then also sidebar, thinking about adults that you're working with too, because it applies to everybody. It's just easier to talk about kids for whatever reason for everybody. It's like an
Well, because
easier
kids are
entry
kids are
point.
so much more overt with
Yeah.
their behaviors, right?
And they don't care as much as us adults do. Is to really help you become confident in like connecting the dots as to like what's happening in their brain and why they could be doing what they're doing, acting the way they're acting, whatever it is. And then also giving you that window that like, it's okay to go admit that you whoopsie doodled and you're a human. And then the best part about both pieces is that there's literally something you can do for all of it. And what I love about our program, I'm going to toot our own horns, is that you can do it at home at any time. You don't have to make appointments. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to turn it over to anybody else. You are becoming empowered. I know that's scary for a lot of people to be like, wait, I can do this? Yes, you can. And that's what our program literally guides you through. But I really do think that that repair piece is so huge. And I was never taught how to do it. It's something that I've been learning as I go. And I was blessed with a daughter who is a miniature version of myself. And the ability I get to heal the little version of Danny and getting to parent her at the same time is amazing. And sometimes I miss what my son is teaching me because I'm like, I just don't see the connection there. But then literally at the root of it, every day I go, oh, I do that. Like I do that little worrying thing, or, oh, I do that thing where I don't want to go places, or I do that. And so I can see myself in my kids. And I think for us parents, it's really important to know that, like Paloma said, they're not us, but what we're doing and thinking and projecting is what they're feeling and picking up on. So if you walk into a room uncertain and nervous, what do you think your child's going to feel? Uncertain and nervous. If you walk
100%.
and got a clear, prepared game plan of how the beach situation is going to, unfold, And obviously you can't predict everything, but at least you
Of course
come
not.
prepared with water and sunscreen and shade and all the tools that we need to have a great day. Your kid is going to feel like, I can just go enjoy and be a kid. Versus, mom,
Exactly.
did you bring this? Oh, why didn't you bring that? Now I'm thirsty. Now I can't do da da da. And so I think this is where I'm like, we're on a kick right now to like really help more parents understand that it's not
Yes.
that deep and it's not that hard to become regulated. It doesn't have to be these hours of, journaling and stopping everything you're doing. You can literally weave it into your morning and
A
just, it's
thousand percent.
doable.
It's all super doable, and I think, I I I have been so happy to interact with all the parents that we're interacting with nowadays, where they're so open to everything. Like parents that I'm like, I wonder how they're going to take this that I'm going to say, where I'm like, actually, you got to start it first. I like 100%. Yeah, I agree. I actually, when you were talking about this and that, I noticed that in myself. And I'm like, I do think that this is a generation of parents now that are truly willing to look at themselves and see
Yeah.
how important it is that they be working on themselves and working through stuff in order to truly exemplify for their kiddos what that looks like. And I think that it would be interesting for us to also do a podcast on what does dysregulation really look like? What does fight or flight really look like? Because I
Mhm.
don't think a lot of us know until we know, right? And so signs of being in fight or flight can be just something that
Our
you
next
thought was your life. You just thought that
one.
was the way that your brain worked, right? And that's such an important thing. And also, like, I know we say this a lot, but I've been saying that we say this a lot all the time, but I think it's been a long time since we've done the podcast, so that's why.
Yes.
But
Yes.
nobody's ever gonna have 100% regulated brain all the
Mm.
time. And also, some stuff is just the way your brain works. And you and I were talking about this the other day, where I have a lot of mid-brain things that are kind of like ADHD things, where I'm like, I will get a song stuck in my head for months. I'm not
Yeah.
exaggerating.
Yeah.
And I vibe with it. Like I used
Yeah.
to be like, oh, like get super annoyed,
Yeah.
and it would make me so angry, and I would just get so frustrated in my own brain. I would like hit myself, be like, stop. And now I'm like, let me play it again. Put it on repeat, Spotify. Like, great. This is awesome, Or like
Yeah.
certain like little sensory things that I have that like I it's not that big of a deal anymore because it's
But
not keeping me from doing
yeah,
other things in my life.
that's
And
the
that's
key.
the biggest thing. Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
It's like it's not
A
fight or
preference.
flight anymore.
Yeah.
It's not putting me into dysregulation anymore. It's just the way that I'm able to understand, like, that's the way it goes, right? And some
Mhm.
people have different things in their brain, and that's okay. Like, not
Right.
everything has to be a label. Not everything has to
Mm.
be, oh, well, this is how my brain works forever. Because, guys, the brain is changing all the time, constantly, and it
Yeah.
has the capacity to change, right? Like, think of all the amazing stories that there are out there of people who have
Mm.
changed everything about their lives and their brains and the way that they operate. I mean, it's amazing, right? It's truly limitless. So
It
I think
is.
that's a really also important message. One of the 1,000 messages we've given today is like, it
Yeah.
can change. Everything can
It can
change.
change. And I love that you said that because we can have preferences. It's when your preference is disrupted, what is your reaction to it? And I think that is where
Exactly.
we can't get so I think that's where Paloma and I've been saying this a lot lately is it's just not that deep. Like
It's not that deep.
stop making such a big analyzation of like what this could mean and oh my gosh, this is going to be this for the rest of your life. It's like, no, I just like my house organized. Like,
Yeah.
and if it gets disorganized, then I just clean it. But Danny, before brain work and all the things, it would get really, I had a lot of anxiety about things. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is
Yes.
going to be so horrible. How am I going to do this? Do I still have anxiety? I have thoughts, but it doesn't give me this
Yes.
physiological reaction anymore. And that's what's really cool. So we're going to keep unpacking all these things. But
Yes.
just to end it, I really want to know what Carol's ABC was because I cut you off and she had a parenting tip of ABC. I thought you like actually had like an acronym for.
Oh, no. I don't even know what that
Okay.
is. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay. Because
I thought you just
I
said it because like she's like corporate baddie?
no, I know, but you said my mom always had this thing where she would always like say ABC.
No, she would
Oh,
say
just like points.
TRY.
Okay.
TRY for my brother. Is that
That
what it
one.
is?
Okay. Well, I
Oh no,
think
I
you
just
were
know
just
like
saying
ABC
like
would say
ABC,
like
like
yeah, it
points.
wasn't an
Okay.
actual acronym.
Okay.
No.
I was waiting for the acronym and then I like cut you off and was like always be closing. But
No, always
anyways.
be cute.
Cute. I was
Literally.
thinking
Done. Check.
calm. Easy.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think this is a good start to our season 4, and
Yes.
I think we should definitely talk about the fight or flight and what that actually looks like in day-to-day life, and we'll give you more.
Yeah, let's talk about stuff. Let's get some questions from people on Instagram and TikTok, and let's just keep going. I would love to also have people come on and like work through things if they want to do like a little bit of like some workshopy stuff. I'm always down with that. So if you're listening and you have questions, please send them to us. Like you can DM us, you can email us, you can whatever. And yeah, we're here to bring more, I don't know, information.
Awareness. Yes. Awareness of like a disorganized brain. I think that's our goal.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, literally. Have a great rest of your day.
You
Bye.
too.